this up. I'm pretty excited to chat with you guys here. I know Rob and Nazar had reached out, and I've got some stuff I want to talk about, but I also want to make this as interactive as possible because there's going to be a lot of things I go over here that are going to be super tactical that we're implementing at our team because we're all in like this shifting market right now, everybody. Everyone kind of feeling it's like things are just dramatically different than they were in the first half of 2022 and even like the past year or the past 2 years. And there's so many agents that have gotten into the business over the past year or 2 years. And I think there was some stat out there from NAR that of the 1.5 million plus agents that are out there, 785,000 of them through the end of the summer hadn't sold a home yet. Like, I mean, imagine going home to your like wife or spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend and be like, hey, it's October, guys. I'm still working hard, but I haven't done a deal. And that's the reality of what's happening in the marketplace right now. And the reason I bring that up is that you guys made the choice to invest in yourselves and get on the call here and get aligned with Rob and Nazar and some of the other guys, Andy, that are involved in the organization, which is awesome. And here's the thing you got to remember. Strong markets create weak skills. Strong markets lead to people cutting corners. Strong markets lead to bad habits, right? And what I found and what we've almost had to reprogram, and look, we got a lot of agents on our team that are less than 2-3 years in the business. They don't know what it's like working through a market where you have to actually meet somebody and explain to them why they should use you. They're used to, I'm available 24/7. I can get you in for a 15-minute window because we live in COVID-restricted Pennsylvania, and we have to write the contract on the hood of my car, and you have 8 minutes to decide afterwards because there's a 5 o'clock deadline and our appointment's at 4:30 and we got to be out of there by 4:45. That's what they're used to dealing with. And that's hard work. It's hustle. It's not skill. And that is the difference. People showed up, they did deals. Sometimes they didn't even know how they did them. So all of us on the call here, because you decided to invest in yourselves, it's really about understanding that the skills and the things you did the past 24, 36 months, you have to almost forget that you did them and get back to basics, which is what's always worked in the 20-some years I've been selling real estate. So to me, where that starts, and I'm just going to go over a couple things here, and then I'm going to break for questions periodically. Who here kind of forgot to give a buyer or a seller consult over the past 2 years? Just met the people and sold them a house. Ryan, I see. So everyone, all right, there we go. Everyone's being honest now. Because if you're not raising your hand, you're not telling the truth. So probably the most important meeting we've all got to practice and repeat because our skill eroded here is going to be the listing appointment and the buyer consultation. And I would change that language when you're trying to set those appointments to one of two things. Why don't we set up a planning meeting? Or why don't we set up a strategy session? No one wants an appointment. They don't want a consultation. You're not going to the doctor to see that you turned 40 years old and you got to make sure your prostate's not enlarged. It's about a strategy session and navigate the current market, or a planning meeting to understand, hey, there's all these moving parts and I don't know what to do. And I'm hearing all this stuff on the news and there's all this nonsense out there, and getting that appointment down to where you can give it in your sleep, right? A lot of us have followed the different coaches that are out there, whether it's like Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, Bill Pipes, whoever. Bill and Tom used to work for Mike. And I am a big Mike Ferry fan in theory and in the stuff he teaches. And one of the things that he used to do at his company, you had to be able to recite your listing presentation on demand anytime. Who here can do that on the call right now? So do you think that's something we might want to work on here? What about a buyer consultation when the buyer says, hey, I'm going to meet you at the house. I don't want to meet you in the office. What about, have you ever had to give an appointment like in the middle of someone's driveway or in like the basement of a house because they're looking at it? Like, that's about skill, and that's about understanding. I got to memorize the script and be able to know it backwards and forwards. If you're not able to do that now, if you get one takeaway from this call, get your meeting down, because we are all interviewing all the time. That's what this job's about. It's constantly interviewing for business. And when you're constantly interviewing for business, you got to have the script down, and you're going to have to ad lib and move around, but you got to get the points across, because the agents that don't do that, they're not setting the right expectations. Then the client doesn't listen to you, and then everything goes south and it's a disaster of a transaction, or there's no transaction at all. So who here's got like a buyer consult or a listing appointment down that they've kind of gotten away from the past 3 years? When's the last time you practiced it? Anybody? So Robert Mack team, I'd be telling Rob, hey, when are we practicing our listing presentation next week? When can I give Rob my listing presentation, right? Nazar, same with you. When can I give you my listing presentation and critique it and work on it? This is no different than a role play call. It's just a longer practice session. So to me, the three keys, and I'll give you the three keys to each of these appointments, and then we can do some Q&A. And I got two other things I want to hit on with you guys. On the seller presentation, I read this book. I don't even remember who did it, but it was called like the three presentations. If you ever took like a presentation class, you're going to have like 3 points, right? You have like your summary at the top, 3 points you're going to hit on in the conclusion. Every seller listing presentation should hit on these 3 things: how to make sure buyers get the right emotional reaction when they walk through the door. So how well is the home going to show? How do you prep it? How to get the right exposure online and offline. So what's the marketing plan? And more importantly, what you're going to do differently than people. And part of that plan should be communication and a lot of other things that we can unpack there. And the last one, how to position the home to be the next one to sell in the marketplace. Where do you price it? How do you fit it into the market? Those are the points I'd be hitting on. And then you're going to do your own value prop there, but how your communication is different, how you market homes different, how you get them ready for the market different. You know, the Just Sold's the new case study where Robert Mack talked about that at the Tom Ferry Summit, how he preps homes and does all that stuff. That's massive value when you bring it in and it fits one of those bullet points. On the buyer side, it's a little trickier. Most buyers, they got no fucking idea what to do. They have no clue, right? They show up, they think it's going to be easy buying a house. And they just want to look at houses. So I'd start that conversation off with this question. Has anyone taken the time to walk you through the current market climate and how the process works? Literally those words. Has anyone taken the time to explain blank? And in the buyer consultation, what I find is really important is like a Q&A reaffirming everything they want and getting clear on what they're looking for. Then how the process works, because every state here is going to be different. You know, you all got different laws wherever you are. New Jersey, you can cancel the contract at like any time for 2 days, which is insane to me. Once you sign it, that's different than what I do here in Pennsylvania, in the Philadelphia area. And then the third part of this is breaking down the financial components and letting them know what their financial plan is to get into the property, specifically cash to close and monthly payment. Because what's everyone bitching about right now on the buy side? Rates, right? You know what's more important than rates? The actual monthly payment. Take the conversation away from what the rate is, because the rate's going to be the rate. You can't control the rate. The payment's how they're buying the house. If you went up to a homeowner right now, I guarantee you most of them would not know what their actual rate is. They have to think about it. They know what their payment is because that's coming out of their checking account every month. So what's their financial plan to get into the home? What's the process? And then in the process part, that's where you give your value propositions like, hey, we do this differently, we do that differently. And then just going over and reaffirming their goals. Those couple of things, it's simple, it's effective. And most agents, that was one of their skills they cut. They said, I don't have time to give these listing appointments. I don't have time to give a buyer consult. I'm just going to go sell them a house. And sure, in the greatest real estate economy of all time, maybe that's what you do. We're not there anymore. This is a normal pre-2020 market. So I would be really dialing down on those basics. The last thing I got for you, and then I'm going to do some Q&A here and make sure we're covering everything, is how are you getting on more appointments? Because I know in 2020, that was my last full 12 months in production. I sold more houses than the number of appointments that I went on. Like, think about that. I sold more houses personally than the number of appointments I went on. I was a less than 1 ratio, because I know my numbers, of sales to appointments. I had to go on like 0.8 of an appointment to do a deal. Some of these people just said, Tom, just sell our house. It's silly, right? It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm not even giving them like a phone call conversation. It was, hey, here's the number we want. And I said, hey, sounds great. Let's list it. And it just sold, because that's the kind of market that we were in. So if you're not, understanding how to get in front of more people, because right now, what's the biggest chance? It's not just like getting the buyers, their offers accepted and everything else. You got to have a bigger pipeline. You got to have more people you're working with. The best agents, they carry anywhere from 20 to 40 different clients at a single time that they can get under contract. If you only got 4 hot prospects right now, you're fucked. If you only got 4 hot prospects right now, you're screwed. If you got 10, you're doing a little better. 20 to 40 is the number. We've got an agent on our team, Stacy Mitchell. She's going to sell probably 60 some homes this year. She sold 48 homes as a brand new agent in her first 12 months. So rock star, kicks ass. We were having a coaching session with one of our guys, and he's like, yeah, I just feel like I don't have enough people. I said, how's in your top prospect sheet right now? We all should have a top prospect sheet. who you can get under contract, who's your targets. He goes, maybe 5. And I'm like, okay. And what's your goal for the year? And we went over the goal, and I said, let's call Stacy real quick. Hey, Stacy, how many people do you have you're working with right now? She's written over 100 offers this year, right? So, I mean, this is the kind of numbers that she's putting out. And it was probably 18 right now, but the range is 15 to 20. I mean, that's how you can increase your odds of getting people under contract. So when it comes to appointment setting, what I would argue that we all want to do is that we're probably not following up enough. Who here follows up more than 3 times with a lead when it comes in or when you get someone? Robert Mack, a couple of you guys here. Chris, I owe you a phone call. Glad to see you on the call here. So with that, I would argue that everyone needs to have a cadence of how often you're reaching out to people based on their category status in your CRM. And so we use Boomtown. So we have a couple different categories. I'll tell you what they all mean. It's probably all the same for all you guys here. Hot, someone that can transact anytime over the next 90 days. On demand, that's a hot buyer, right? Hot seller. That person needs a phone call, not a text message, not an email that's like really well written. They need you to pick up the phone and call them once a week at a minimum, if not more. That's the minimum standard. That's what we roll out here at our team. Nurture leads, 3 to 6 months out, right? And that's from making a real estate decision, signing an agreement of sale. They need every other week at a minimum. Obviously, they're further out. You want to make sure you're in touch with them. Watch leads, 6 to 12 months. That is a once a month phone call at a minimum. On top of having everyone on a property drip, whether it's listing activity in their neighborhood for sellers or properties they're interested in if they're buyers, making sure that you're peppering them with property relevant data information. And I'd be sending everyone in your database a video about real estate once a week. You do those things and you're calling these people because everyone wants to automate like the follow-up process right now. And you can automate it to a certain extent. The consumer is actually okay with automation in 2022. They're good with it. If you're not picking up the phone and getting in the weeds and converting these people, somebody else will. And that's why it's so critical. You're not just, and don't call them and say, hey, Nazar, I'm just checking in with you. You know what checking in means? Are you ready to buy a house yet? I'm just calling you to be annoying. It's, hey, Rob, did you see what happened at the Fed meeting last week? It's really impacting the way people can afford homes. Have you thought about how that might impact the value of your property? Like that's a value call, right? You can go on Keeping Current Matters, any one of these sites. There's tons of things you can send out or call about. There's got to be a reason you're calling them. Value addition. Checking in. No one gives a fuck about the check-in call. You know who checks in on me? My mother. I'm in my 40s. I don't need her checking in on me. I'm fine. So that's what you got to avoid when you're doing follow-up. So this is all really basic stuff. That's all I got, Nazar. So lay it. I want to do some Q&A here with everybody.
Yeah. No, I was going to say one of the easiest ways in which we can do that is by setting up our own little search criteria based on all of our past clients. And so like that small little cluster, like we're talking less than a half a mile from their home, set up so it tells you, not them, but it tells you every single time a home sells or lists or goes pending in their farm or in that little small area. And you can call and be like, hey, bro, did you see that your house, the house down the street or 2 blocks away just went pending or sold or whatever it is? Like, they're like, oh shit, Nazar's paying attention to what's going on in my neighborhood. So it just keeps you more relevant.
Yeah. And setting those things up, like using your CRM to keep you like, because you're going to forget all these people you talk to, right? Like, I mean, I've forgotten about people and lost business because of it. But leaning into the CRM, like we have a principle at our team, if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen because there's no way to remember this stuff. But you're making 100 phone calls a day or 50 phone calls a day. You're not going to remember everyone's name. But when you put those notes in, you have those property alerts set up, then that is your brain. Your brain is now automated and it's systemized. And that's where you're going to be able to scale results because you got a system behind it. You're not relying on what's going up here. So what kind of questions do you guys have? I know I wanted to hit on just some real basic stuff that we found has been super effective because the market is changing and our habits need to change. And these are things we all probably learned like our first couple of years in the business. But now, because of a strong market, like, look, I cut corners. We all did. It's time to, yeah, go for it.
So what are you, for your team, hot lead comes in, Facebook, Google, whatever. What are you telling your agents as far as the follow-up plan from when the lead comes in to how many times consecutively you're calling, email, or texting?
We are big believers in the 10-6 plan, meaning a lead registers. Now, this is if you don't get in touch with them. So I'm going to answer the hot thing here in a second. But a lead comes in, You call them 10 times in the first 14 days and you text them 6 times. Statistically, like I've gotten this from someone I work with on Google, where they've gotten into other team CRMs. That's where they see the conversion jump. With a hot lead, you got to be calling these people regularly. And I think a lot of agents, they feel like they're bothering somebody. You know what bothers me? When I don't follow up enough and I lose the listing. When I don't follow up enough and lose the client, that's a bother. So remember, these people, like inbound leads especially, they reached out to you. It's not the other way around. And even the ones where you're outbound calling, like an expired or a for sale by owner or something like that, you still want to follow up with them, because people's lives, like think how busy everyone is in the day to day, and we're trying to catch them during the workday. They may just like have something going on. They can't pick up your call. But when you call them again 2 days later or whatever it is, that's really important. That's with a hot lead. Like minimum is a phone call once a week. And to me, it's not a hot lead until you've talked to them, right? So we use qualify if we haven't talked to them. That's where that 10-6 comes in. Now it might be, hey, I want to list my house, which I think we all could use a lot more of those right now. I'd be, that's one I'd even probably go a little deeper on, but 10-6 is a good way to look at it. And if you talk to them and they confirm their time frame is, we're ready to go, we're ready to make a decision, you got to be calling them once a week, if not sooner. And I would even take that and put it on like a sheet of paper with your top prospects, the people you're trying to move through your funnel. It's old school, but like we all drive around a lot, right? So you know what you do in your car, instead of listening to like the radio or like Kiss 101 or whatever the hell's on, you call people, are ready to transact and you know what's going on. It's a great way to get time back. And it just, I would, when I was in production, I had a list of about like 70 people. This is the last day I was in production. And it was all the people I was trying to get to sign a listing contract. And I would call them when I was driving around, because 20 minutes between an appointment, that's money, right? I can waste it, or I can make, kind of make time like bend a little bit and get that time back. And that was a really effective thing for me. So I know it's old school, but the top prospect sheet works.
I'll just add, Chris, that the way in which we as human beings communicate now is video. Like I've sent so many text messages, or I've received text messages that were so like, I just like, what are they saying? What do they mean? Right? You can't, you're not gonna get tone. You're not gonna get body language in text. Emojis help, but still. And so doing a video text message, even if you don't know the person, you can send that out. Like that is freaking money, because people are already used to watching video all the time. You send a quick little video, then you become this, I don't know who Nazar is, or I don't know who Chris is, but oh, look, there's his face and there's his voice, and I can see his tone. I can see his body language. I can see that he's excited to be able to show me this property. Like you can get that dialed in, and that's how I think you get more of an impact on getting them to reciprocate and respond to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Tom, I got a real quick question too. Just fill in the blank here. On the buyer side, there was 3 components. The first one was, has anyone ever taken the time to explain the market? Number 3 was the financial component. What was number 2? I missed that.
So no, there was actually 2 more in there. I would ask the question first, because no one ever explains how it works. And I would even tell people, hey, you know what, Rob? A lot of realtors, they're going to start showing you houses and get you excited, and they're not going to tell you how the process works. And when you find one you like, you're not going to know what to do. So has anyone taken the time to explain the process or break down the financials or whatever else? So number 1 is I would almost, it's basically, you've already pre-qualified these people, I'm assuming, but it's going over their goals again. And like, hey, I just want to confirm you're still looking to move to Newport Beach. And right now you live in Irvine and you don't like the neighborhood and you want to get somewhere where there's a little more like ocean and sea air. So like, and just going over their needs, because it's going to show you listen to them on the first call, which is really important. 2 is how the process works. So I'm a big fan of like the timeline. So we have a stock buyer presentation at our team, and it's literally like, step 1, meet with me. All right, we're here. Great, we did it. Step 2, are you paying cash or are you financing? And I always say cash or financing, because you don't want to insult somebody who's paying cash. They're like, oh, you're pre-approved. Like that's like a horrible question to ask. You want to ask, are you paying cash or are you financing? And then great, we'll talk to the lender. And then 3, we're going to get clear on your criteria. We're going to do that now. And then it's all the steps are there, so they know what to expect. Because if you guys ever saw Chris Voss, I know I had the pleasure of seeing him. I think Robin and Nazar did too. Trust is built with certainty. And when people know what to expect, it's going to go a lot easier. We just had a team training earlier today, and some of our best agents, they're selling like 30, 50 homes a year. They'll tell people, hey, most folks are going to start writing offers after looking at 7 homes. And they tell them that at the meeting. So when they see 7 homes they don't like, they're like, oh, I guess, Steve, maybe we need to readjust our search. We're not seeing anything we like. So, and we're not ready to write offers yet. So they're actually holding themselves to the expectation you set instead of letting them just kind of meander their way through the process and not know what to do.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. Thank you.
Nazar, how do you do the half a mile from your past client homes? Is that title company give you that search, or how do you do it?
No, just again, if you've got a CRM, you can do it through there. We use Ylopo, but you could also just go on your MLS and you can set up searches that way. Just very simple, super simple and easy. And then again, the notification should come to you, not to your clients, because then it's going to give you that talking point to be able to make have a conversation with them.
And then you send it to them and they're like, man, Nazar's really on it. He knows exactly what's going on. It just, people want an agent that's going to work for them. And when you do that, those little touches, like that's what I'm saying. You can't just automate it all. I think that really demonstrates the point, Nazar. So thank you. That extra like personalized email, or you send the link or whatever, it goes a long way, because most agents just don't do that stuff. You
guys, so who has stocks? And I'm sure most of you guys are crying, right? Who goes and checks their stock on a regular basis, whatever that frequency is? Like we all do, right? If you own stock, you want to see how's the company going. And if you own a house, you want to know what a house is worth, right? At any given time. And that's why Zillow became so powerful with their estimates, is because they were able to give that instantaneously to a client. And so if you can deliver a better experience and a better, more qualified valuation because you've already sold them the house and then that makes it so much more powerful when you call and say, hey, your neighbor just sold the house for 1.2 million and your house is freaking way better. So it's probably worth like 1.3 right now. Have you had any thoughts on selling? Right? You could have those conversations if you know your crap already.
Well said, my man.
So if you have them set up on HomeBot, would you say do that in addition to HomeBot, or send it out every 2 weeks, every month? What would you recommend as far as like the frequency of using that automated report from HomeBot?
I don't use HomeBot. I think the automation is good. And if you're going to send out anything in mass, right? Or you send out like a video. We just did a video explaining what we said.
Are these
Sorry.
Thank you.
People don't know how to mute.
Yeah. 3 years later, we're still figuring this out. I'm okay with automation. And like we've been doing videos that we've been sending out, like, hey, did you realize homeowner equity is at 62%? Or everyone's talking about the Fed meeting. Here's what it actually means. And we'll do these videos. Like we'll run a script for our team. Our team sends them out to their prospects. So it's all the same stuff. You got to call them after you send it. That's the number one thing. Even if you're going to send something automated, it's, hey, Nazar, did you see that report I just sent you about home values in your area? Can you believe what they got for 123 Banana Street? It was unreal. And like, that's where the conversion happens. And that's what I mean when you got to like jump into the notes and like jump into the conversion. It can't be all automated. It's got to be you picking up the phone, the hearing, like the excitement in your voice, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's all the automation works as long as you're calling and following up afterwards.
Again, like just to reiterate this, if you've got HomeBot, which is fine, but like if you're not the one that's delivering that value to them in the form of a phone call or a text message, you're just missing a massive opportunity to be able to engage and connect with your clients and just stay in touch with them. It doesn't have to be weekly, right? It could be once a month. It could be once every, whatever frequency you want to set up. You set up on your follow-up boss or whatever CRM you've got, and you just run with it. You're like, oh, these are the people that I need to call today. I spoke to them last month. It's just that simple. Anybody else have other questions for Tom before?
I got one more nugget here for you, and I was 5 minutes late, so I'll do the extra 5. Is anyone getting the sense that their buyers or sellers have no idea what's going on economically in the country right now?
100%.
Right? The media is just sitting there coming up with bullshit headlines, pumping it out, and then you read the story and it tells you something exactly different. So when I talked about some of these videos, I know you guys are recording this here. I'm going to give you a video right now that we sent out that we're getting massive success with, but you got to promise me once you send the video out to your people, you will call them afterwards, because that's the only way you're going to convert here. But it's about the Fed, right? Everyone's talking about the Fed meeting, what's going on with rates, what's going to happen. So here's the way the video should go. And it's going to be it's going to be done in a way that's going to have a hook to it. And it's going to get people interested. So this is what we've been sending out, and we've been seeing some really good success. So the Fed met last week, sorry, I can't even do it right now. So the Fed met last week. How is that going to affect the real estate market? So here's what I know. Everyone's talking about what Jerome Powell said and what's going on and the comments afterwards. And nobody really understands how it's going to affect people in the US right now. So really quickly, what he said is that the Fed's going to continue to raise rates until inflation is under control. And what we know is that the Fed doesn't set mortgage rates. This is a big misconception. People think the Fed just sets the rates and that's how they go. Their policy decisions influence mortgage rates. And because they influence mortgage rates, they're going to dance around a little bit. They may not react as people suspect. So they increased rates by 75 basis points. That caused mortgage rates to go up to right around 7% on a 30-year fixed loan and about 6 3/8 on a jumbo rate. That was the immediate reaction from the market. And as a result, buyer affordability, it's gone down a little bit. Sellers aren't going to be able to sell their home for as much because as a result, the people's payments have gone up even if the price is the same. So that's going to have to create some financial wherewithal with folks. So knowing that this is how the Fed market policy works and what their plans are, because their goal is to get inflation down. And they're going to continue to raise rates until they do that. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 3-6 months. There's no telling here because the last time the Fed raised rates, it didn't do anything to mortgage rates. So it really demonstrates there's uncertainty in the market. So for people that are thinking about buying and selling, Chairman Powell came out and said, we're going to keep doing this and it may hurt the housing market. That's what he said point blank. The issue with the housing market is this. It doesn't matter where rates are because Nick Bailey, the CEO of RE/MAX, came out and said we're about 4 to 4.5 million homes short of solving the inventory issue that's out there right now. This is supply and demand. So, and then this is where you got to know your local market. Insert your market stats here. I'll do ours. Right now in the suburban counties in Philadelphia, we have about a 1-month supply of homes for sale. In order for that market to be equal for buyers and sellers, it needs to hit a 6-month supply. So we're not even close to that. We literally have to 6x our current inventory. And in the city of Philadelphia, we're about 3.5 months, a little bit of a different market there. So that's got less of a way to go. So until that supply comes up, we're not going to see prices decrease. And all the major reporting agencies that are out there, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the Mortgage Bankers Association, here's the slide from Keeping Current Matters, put the slide up in the video. They're showing that year-over-year appreciation is going to come in anywhere from 10 to 11%. So definitively, there is data out there showing the market's not going to crash. People's payments are going up. That's really what it means for the market. So for a buyer, I'd be thinking about if I find the home that hits 75% of my needs, I should be moving on it now because rates are likely to go up if the Fed keeps pushing their key interest rate up. Sellers, you're losing buyers. There's some buyers who just can't afford what they wanted to a couple months ago. So don't gamble with the home equity in your home. Use those words specifically. Don't gamble with your home equity. Don't be like Dan O'Neill. You guys don't know. Don't gamble with home equity because your home is going to be worth more now than it could be down the line. As rates go up, the cost of money got more expensive. And most people buy their home with the monthly payment, not the mortgage rate. And obviously, every situation is different. All the more reason, if you got a question about what's going on and you're still unsure about all this, because I just unpacked a lot in this 2 or 3 minute video, shoot me a message or I'll give you a call to follow up and see if you want to talk about your needs directly. And like, that's the video. Now, you could probably even make that 2 or 3 videos, but I wanted to give you all the content because did everyone kind of understand what I said there? Was there anyone that like got lost in what I was getting into? Because a lot of consumers just have no fucking idea right now. Their mind is blown by what's going on with the Fed. And I think it's our job as market brokers, and that's the last point I had here. You got to be able to talk about this, because if you don't, a savvy consumer, they're just going to move on to find someone that can.
Can you do it one more time for us, Tom?
So I think they recorded it, but what I will do is I did this for my team. Tessa, I'm going to send it to Rob to send out to everybody. It's in a bomb link. I'm going to literally text it to him and Nazar right now. So I think that'll be way more effective. And you can watch it over and over again. That's probably what you need here instead of me going over the script 4 more times.
We'll make sure we get it out to everybody as well.
Otherwise, I'm not doing one of these again. Rob's got to send it to you. All right. Any questions you guys got here?
We love that you use the F word because Nazar never uses the F word. So it's refreshing to hear you say it.
I know he doesn't. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons I'm doing it so much on this call, just to make him uncomfortable. But he knows that. So
that's actually why he left the call. It's not the airport. No.
Matt and I know from personal experience, Nazar has a very high threshold when it comes to being a good sport.
Very high. Yeah, I agree.
Very high.
I know from experience as well.
Awesome.
But you know what? This kind of speaks to one thing, Tessa. You got to be yourself when you're delivering these things. Like if I would like this, I mean, this is just how I am, but you got to act that way in front of your clients. I'm not saying start dropping the F-bomb. I would never do that in front of a client, like unless it's a horrible negotiation or something's going wrong. But you got to be authentically yourself in these things, because if Nazar did that on this call, you guys would know within a second he's trying to like play to something, right? Now, this is a little different audience, but the same thing goes for your clients. Like, you really got to lean into who you are. Some people are never going to send a video, which I think is a mistake. Others might be more analytical and send charts and graphs, but you got to be yourself, because people want to have that connection with their agent. And I think that's something that also got lost in the past 2-3 years, is being able to connect with people.
Thank you. Just quick thing, as far as you mentioned about the appointments, get more appointments. Can you little emphasize on listing appointment, how we can get more listing appointments beside the points you know?
Pick up the phone and call potential sellers. Number one way to get appointments. I mean, I was doing 90 sales a year for about 10 years straight. They were all listings. If you were looking for me in the morning, Rob actually came out to my office and saw this. What was that, like 2016? It was a long time ago. And I would not book any appointments in the morning. If someone asked me to meet them, it had to be, I'm in town for 1 hour from 10 to 11, and I have to sell this house because it's my grandmother's estate and I have to get back to wherever I'm coming from. And it's the only time I can meet with you, and I'm ready to sign a contract. Otherwise, I would not have met with them. A lot of agents don't have that discipline. I'm imagining probably a lot of you guys on the call don't have that discipline. And it's literally nothing got in the way of me filling my pipeline. And if someone didn't want to work with me like that, I'm going to go find somebody else. And so it's literally the more conversations you have, Martin, the more conversations you have, the more appointments you're going to set. And the more appointments you go on, the more homes you're going to sell. Like that's the funnel. That's like Mark Roberge's sales acceleration formula. It's activities you can control, which are conversations, the objective, setting the appointment and going on the appointment, and then the result of selling houses. You can't control the result. A lot of people want to jump to the result. And that's what happened the past 2-3 years. They were jumping to the result instead of falling in love with the process. And the people that master the beginning of the process are the ones that have the best results at the end. And that's what a lot of people, we live in a world of instant gratification. People get worried if someone doesn't like their Instagram post within like 30 seconds right now. I mean, it's bananas. So we've got to start to think about, hey, what's the process? What's worked? How can I do more of what's working? But it starts with phone calls.
Thank you.
You got it, man.
You're a legend.
All right, you guys got
Toole.
anything else here?
Oh, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much. And we'll make sure, Tom, thank you for your time, and we'll make sure everybody gets the link to the BombBomb video. And another reminder, we do these every week, and every week we're going to try to bring amazing speakers like Tom. So tune in for next Thursday, 10:30 to 11.
The Long Island
Thanks,
Bulldog,
guys.
The Long Island Bulldog just showed up.
Oh man,
there
we
you
even got
go.
a shout out.
So everybody.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye, guys.
Good job.
I missed the
Bye-bye.
call.
Thank
Hey
you.
guys,
Say it.
thanks Tom. Good stuff, man.
Anytime. Later, guys.